Hello everybody, I'm here again with my trusty high-tech notebook. Maybe one day I'll learn some video editing or other techniques, but for now, we're back. And I want to speak to you, show you some examples about asking for permission and talking about obligations, with a focus on getting a new house or a new apartment, renting a new house or a new apartment. When we go to look at a house or an apartment because we want to rent it, we want to live there, of course you need to ask the landlord many questions. You need to ask them about how to pay, what you can or cannot do, and numerous other things. What is included in the contract, what kind of furniture, common areas, if there's any secret surprise fees, security deposits, and other things. Personally, I remember the very first time I went to rent an apartment, my third year of university, I looked, and they said, "Any questions?" And I said, "No." And the man looked at me, and he knew I was quite young, and said, "You really need to think about what exactly you're looking at, and you really need to ask questions, or you're going to get a bad surprise." So, what kind of questions we can ask? We're going to have to ask questions about permission and obligation. So, regarding asking for permission, let's imagine you have a car. What are you going to do with it? Where are you going to put it? So, the standard way to ask for permission is to use can. So, can I park in the alley? Can I park in the street out back? If we want to be a little more polite, we can use may. But sometimes this doesn't quite work because may usually indicates a specific time. May I park in the alley tonight? But maybe it works. I think personally, just can is the best option, a simple option. We can also use the word allowed. Is something allowed? Are parties allowed here, or am I going to get complaints? We can also use permitted, which is just a more formal way to say allowed. Are parties permitted here? There's another structure with allowed and permitted, where you can say, am I allowed or permitted to have parties? Am I allowed or permitted to move the furniture? Am I allowed to make a copy of the keys? Or, in the case here, to repaint the bathroom. You don't want to repaint the bathroom and get a bad surprise when you leave that you need to pay a lot of money to the landlord. So, you should always ask in advance. Well, if the landlord wants to say yes, the answers are very obvious, and I have not written them down. Yes, you can. Yes, you may. Yes, you are allowed to do that. Yes, it is allowed. Parties are permitted. In the case of no permission, if they are prohibited, we have some other options. We can say, the easiest one, you cannot do something. You cannot park in the alley, or maybe you may not park in the alley. We can say that parties are not allowed. Parties are not prohibited. There's another option we can use where we don't need to use the negative word not. We can use the word forbidden, or we can use the word prohibited. So, parties are prohibited. Parties are forbidden. If we want to be very clear, parties are strictly forbidden. Don't even think about it. You're going to have a bad surprise. There's two more ways to use forbidden and prohibited. They're a bit more advanced, so don't worry about them if they confuse you a little bit. But they're very, very nice options if you can learn them. So we can say, it is forbidden, or it is prohibited to do something. It is prohibited to repaint the bathroom. It is prohibited to repaint the bathroom. And the most advanced form is to say that someone is prohibited from doing something or to do something. So, maybe you want to rent an extra room. There's a 3-bedroom apartment, you are renting it with a friend, and you want to rent it to somebody else, the extra bedroom. Sometimes that's not allowed. Sometimes that is forbidden. So we can say something like, tenants are forbidden from renting the extra room. Tenants are prohibited from renting the extra room. Subletting is the technical word for that. Okay. We can also use to. Tenants are forbidden to rent or sublet the apartment. So there's some variation among native speakers. Some people prefer one, some people prefer the other. So it's not very clear which is right or which is wrong. Probably they're both right. Okay? Now, we can also talk about obligation. You need to know what kind of obligations you have when you rent a place. Because if you don't complete the obligations, again, you're going to get a bad surprise. You're going to get a fine, or you're going to have a little call from the police, or a very angry call from your landlord, and you don't want that. So you need to ask in advance. How can we ask? Imagine you're living in a cold city, you're living in Chicago, you're living in Toronto, you're living in Minneapolis, and it's going to snow. Do I have to shovel the pavement? That means when the snow comes down, do I need to remove the snow? Must I shovel the pavement? We can use must. To me, it's a little too formal, but it's an option. Must I shovel the pavement? Well, if the answer is yes, it's kind of obvious. Yes, you have to do it. Yes, you must do it. When the answer is affirmative, no problems. Super simple. When the answer is negative, many students have some problems with this. There's 2 different forms and they do not mean the same thing. Look at the form in blue. No, you don't have to. No, you don't have to shovel the pavement. That means that you can, if you want, if you feel like you want the exercise, go ahead. But you don't have to, because maybe the city is going to do it, or maybe the landlord is going to do it. In the red, we have no, you can't, or no, you mustn't. That does not mean that you can if you want. That means that it is against the rules. It is prohibited. No, you must not. For whatever reason, the landlord doesn't want you to shovel the snow. Maybe he or she is afraid that you will hurt yourself, and then you're going to ask for money, you're going to go to court, and it will be a big mess. So you are forbidden. No, you must not do that. So be very aware of the difference here between must not and don't have to. Must not is a prohibition, and don't have to is not a prohibition. You can do it if you want. Okay? This semester, you don't have to attend classes. That does not mean you're forbidden from attending classes. I think you should attend classes. Okay? So that's everything for today. You ought to think of at least 5 examples. At least 5 examples of questions you can ask when you are looking at an apartment. Questions about obligation, and 5 examples about permission. Things that you want to do, or things that maybe you have to do by obligation. Alright, so I hope to see you soon, and that's everything for today.